Despite a few things I found quite irksome, we did get a banger of an episode this week otherwise. This was our first time seeing our Canadian brothers and sisters up in the occupied territories in live action. House gets brought back online. We got a Gauss rifle, looks very good. We also got that NCR Ranger power armor, and it looks super fucking cool. And the show may have finally revealed which Fallout New Vegas ending it's running off of. Let's jump into it. So aside from that opening cutscene in Fallout 1, we haven't seen Canada at all. You have that U.S. Marine taking out a Canadian in that first cutscene. We haven't seen Canada. We have Steph, kind of her getaway, escaping from one of these internment camps, and then we have like a U.S. soldier, U.S. Marine Corps, I think it's T-45 he's wearing, and he pops out, and he's like threatening to send her back, and he's like, get back to the camp, hosers. I thought it was funny. I'm sure my Canadian friends will appreciate. But yeah, dude, getting that backstory of Steph 100% changed like the vibes around the character for sure. Like before I was not really feeling anything for her except like annoyance, that she's kind of just getting in the way of the characters that I do care about, right? She's definitely plotting something. She's just kind of an asshole to everybody. My sweet Zach Cherry, our good friend Woody, she was, obviously being a dick to him and everybody else. They can kind of turn that around, provide this extra context, and all of a sudden I feel empathy for her character, and I feel understanding for, she's just trying to survive, and, she's in this incredibly hostile environment, being in America where we know how Americans feel about Canadians and at this point in the timeline, right? So I don't know, it's just kind of interesting that they were able to get me to care about a character and understand a character that I didn't before. Anytime you give a character backstory and you can get the audience to understand someone who we didn't understand before or like felt no empathy for before, it's so cool to kind of get that shift of how the audience is feeling about a character and just totally flip things around. We also found out that Steph worked at the Lucky 38. That doesn't change a whole lot about the character, although it does give the context of how she got into the vault, which is important. As she's kind of paid by Cooper to get rid of Hank and send him back to his room, he says, if you want to get into a vault, this is the guy you talk to. So clearly that's how she made the connection, got the job at Vault-Tec, and ended up in Vault 33. So a little bit later in the episode, in that scene where Chet's finally calling out Steph at their wedding, of all places, I do love how like the big gasp in that moment, like the big reveal to the other vault dwellers, isn't that, she killed Woody or that she's 200 years old, but that she's Canadian. I thought that was really funny. I like that they're kind of playing up the whole like anti-Canadian sentiment. Same with that post-credit scene, right? The camera's like flying through a checkpoint and it says Little America and all these things of how the Fallout world refers to the annexed Canada. And it just kind of feels a little different with everything that's kind of going on in the world today. And oh, by the way, last week we talked about the opening title cards and how they've been killing it, how each episode's different and how, it just relates to what's going on in the episode. I loved how it's like a flag and it turns blood red, just like the Canadian flag. And then Oh Canada, kind of a distorted version of Oh Canada's playing in the background. It's very sad. Again, very topical, right? But yeah, it was just well implemented. Well done. All right, we jump back over to Thaddius, Maximus, and the Ghoul, and Dogmeat too. And as the three of them are like walking through this old NCR camp, we find some pretty fucking cool toys, to be honest. It was so sick to see the Gauss rifle like brought to life in live action. Ever since like that weapon was redesigned to fit the art style of Fallout 4. The old version is great too that we get in Fallout 3, but the version that they redid for Fallout 4, it's always been like one of my favorite guns. Just, I don't know why, just like the tube lights that are on the back of it, that the charge, when you're charging your shot. Just that shit looks so good. It's such a well-designed weapon. It looks so good. So it was cool to see it here. We get the Ghoul picking it up and he'll use it later in the episode, which seems to be pretty effective here too. Okay. Now this may be somewhat controversial. Since it does change some like relatively minor lore, but I know some of you probably will care about that. Basically, in Fallout New Vegas, like the NCR didn't have the training or the infrastructure to use power armor, so they did use like unpowered salvaged versions that they got from the Brotherhood forces that they had defeated. So technically, this is a change, right? It's pretty minor. not a big deal in my book, to me personally, but I know to some people it will be. But honestly, like the pros of a super fucking cool new power armor being introduced always outweigh there being any tiny lore change, in my opinion. If you disagree, let me know why. I'd be curious to talk more about it. But yeah, the armor looks really good, man. I know it got leaked like a year ago, but seeing it in all its glory like this and seeing it in action is just so cool. I love this power armor. It might legit be my new favorite power armor in the entire Fallout franchise. It looks so good. My favorite armor set, I mentioned in an earlier episode, like my favorite armor set in Fallout in maybe any gaming franchise is the NCR Ranger armor. So like now mashing power armor into the mix into NCR Ranger armor is just so cool. Just the combo of the two of them looks so good. Yeah, I'm into it. So as the three of them like approach the strip and they go through Freeside, it was really cool to see the people of Freeside get excited when they thought it was like the NCR returning, you know, to take out the Death Claws and probably to bring order back to Freeside, bring order back to the strip. We'll talk more about that later because that does provide more context on where I think the canon ending is that they're working off of for the show. It's really funny. They finally get ready to take on the Death Claws, and the ghoul tells Thaddius, you know, to like get into a sniper position or something like that. And then his arm falls off. And then he says, another really funny Thaddius line, "I would, but it seems like I'm having some sort of medical episode here." That line made me laugh. Thaddius is such a funny character. Okay, so it's very clear at this point that Thaddius is not becoming a ghoul. They like really drew attention to it this episode. And it's just all the comments that he's making to Cooper about like becoming ghoulified and how he's, oh, I haven't lost my nose yet, and all the things he says. And then, you know, Cooper just kind of looks at him like, you're obviously not becoming a ghoul. So the most likely answer to me is that he's becoming a centaur, the most disgusting creature in the Fallout universe. The snake oil salesman most likely injected him with FEV, but not normal FEV, at least not what gives you super mutants. It's like that version that has like cat and dog DNA in it. It's all mixed in, just a total, you know, creates abominations essentially, right? You know, whether it's that, you know, certain type of looking thing with teeth on his collarbone there, or just everything else that's happening to him. Losing an arm, right? Centaurs have no arms, except they have like arms for feet and all that kind of shit. But yeah, it's going to be a disturbing process to watch for sure. I'm interested to see where that goes.
We will watch your career with great interest.
Okay, this is one of the things that kind of pissed me off this episode. You know, it's okay to bend logic a little bit if it helps the story, but if you set rules for a universe, if you set rules for a world, you have to follow them. Because if you start breaking logic, even if the logic's different in whatever universe you're telling your story in, it has to be consistent. So the rules, I feel like, are already set, that Death Claws are very strong, right? It's set in the universe in general, but also in the show. They do, like, I remember there was the one in that earlier episode when they introduced them, and he's like, you know, coming out of Gomorrah, and he's like tearing the fucking walls apart, right, as he walks out. So if that's what the rules you've already set, why are they not busting through the Freeside gate? The reason that I bring this up specifically, the Death Claws were clearly hungry enough to fucking eat each other, right? But they weren't able to get through that gate, to get through that wall to Freeside, and it's full of people. I don't know. Honestly, that one's kind of stupid. There's things that I can look past logic-wise. This one's just kind of dumb. It makes no sense, and it takes away from the story. It takes away from the storytelling, right? If you can't believe why these creatures are doing what they're doing, if it doesn't make sense based on the rules of the world, it takes you out of the story. That's not fun, right? So, boo. Another thing that kind of pissed me off this episode. So, you've already established how resilient the ghoul is in the show, right? He gets fucking impaled on a pole, and it takes a big chunk out of him, and he survives it, right? There's a million other things he's survived. The issue with having one of your main characters be a ghoul that can survive all this stuff is that you've already shown them surviving such insane situations, like getting chunks of his guts removed, that like whenever there's any drama that you're trying to portray and like tension on screen, like that he's in danger, like specifically when Max saves him from the Deathclaw, right? Like you really show him being concerned about what's about to happen. And like it kind of just rings hollow to me because we've already shown him survive everything. So not only is there going to be plot armor in a lot of situations and even in a lot of shows of your main characters, but like this is kind of almost annoying amounts of plot armor because you basically said, oh yeah, nothing can kill this guy. So why even show him in dangerous situations? It feels like that's not how you should be using the character, right? It kind of, that again, and it's another thing similar to the Deathclaw thing. It just kind of took me out of the storytelling. So it hurts your story more than anything else. So I wouldn't really worry about putting him in dangerous situations in the future. Oh yeah, okay, dude. So we get confirmation pretty much of how the Enclave ends up with the cold fusion diode, right? Cooper, he's like trying to be a good guy and try to do the right thing, gives it right to them, which is a funny parallel too. Like we have Maximus and he's like, oh, I'm going to give it to Lucy, right? And how she's a good person. She'll know what to do with it. It's funny that the relationship there where we have, that's exactly what Cooper tried to do. And it totally backfired, right? He ends up handing it right to the Enclave. Well, we'll dive deeper into that in a minute. Now, it seems like that this also confirms that Congresswoman Welch was a member of the Enclave all along too. But like, unless she's somehow unaware that the president is part of this shadowy organization that is the Enclave, and she was also trying to do right by the American people and like was trying to help Cooper hand it over, to the right people and not essentially the deep state. So I don't know. I guess it could go either way. We don't know for sure what her intentions were. But also, if Vault-Tec, / Hank is using the Congresswoman's head to help keep everyone that's chipped more agreeable, more docile, because she embodied those traits best, I'm assuming that's why. That would also seem to be evidence, like against her being part of the Enclave, right? Because if she was actually embodying those traits, like honestly, and not, kind of manipulating Cooper as part of the Enclave, then why would they use her for that purpose? You know what I mean? So it is kind of confusing. We don't know for sure that all of these things have answers yet. It's still a little bit up in the air. I'm guessing, having Lucy find her head there with House's, that helmet that he used to connect to his own mainframe. I'm curious to see where that all goes. I'm sure, by ending on that, we'll definitely find out more about it next week, I assume. Okay, most importantly, did the show just tell us that there's a canon ending that they're working with in the show? You would almost think that, they've been kind of dodgy, right, in interviews and shit, and like even in the show, like of really clearly saying what happened to New Vegas, what happened to the Strip, what happened to the Mojave. But here's what we know. The NCR is like scattered, defeated. They're barely a player anymore in the Mojave, right? The Legion's divided. It's leaderless. It's warring with itself. We have House and his Securitrons have been like shut down, essentially. They're out of the game completely until the end of the episode with Cooper bringing the cold fusion and all that stuff, right? Did they really go with the Yes Man ending? That's fucking wild. That's crazy. Maybe that's the ending that makes the most sense if you're making a show to work off of. I don't know, just crazy. It seems like it has to be the Yes Man ending though, because like New Vegas feels unstable, it's fragmented, it's very opportunistic. It's kind of, at least that's what the Yes Man ending embodied, right? That ending essentially leaves the courier in power. So if, let's say, the courier disappeared, Vegas would be left a mess like we see it in the show, right? So that does make a lot of sense. It's crazy, but it really does seem like they chose an ending, a canon ending, at least for the show, and it's the Yes Man ending. You'll have to let me know which ending you usually choose when you do your playthroughs. For me, it's usually Yes Man or House. NCR sometimes too. But I'd be curious to hear what you guys usually choose to. And also, if you have a problem with them picking a canon ending, essentially, and even if you don't have a problem with them picking a canon ending, if you have a problem with it being the Yes Man ending, right? So let me know what you think. So I like the whole, you always end up back where you started theme of this episode, right? We have Steph, who ends up being chased by Americans, at the end of this episode for her. It started the episode that way with her story of coming to America, and then now being found out in her vault and having her chased by Americans again, essentially, right? We have Cooper, who ends up back at the Lucky 38 talking to House, and ends up following through on giving House the cold fusion diode, which he specifically over 200 years ago prevented from happening, right? we have Maximus kind of ending back up, running away from the Brotherhood, back in power armor again, and also back in NCR power armor this time, right? Like, he was essentially a part of the NCR when he was born, his parents, in Shady Sands and everything. And then he gets picked up by the Brotherhood after Hank nukes it, etc. But it's kind of funny, like, he is back where he started in the first season of running away from the Brotherhood and ending up in a set of power armor, and then also back with the NCR. So I bet you they're going to really bring his story around and like have him maybe get the NCR up and going again. Yeah, dude. I really liked this episode. There was some shit that did genuinely piss me off. Just stuff that took me out of the story. Stuff that felt a little disrespectful to the viewer, whether you're a fan of the games or not. It just kind of disrespects your intelligence a little bit. So, that shit aside, it was a fun episode. We got to kind of dive in deeper to a lot of these things, like the Enclave plot line, finding out how the Enclave ended up with the Cold Fusion, having these characters kind of come full circle in a lot of ways. It'll be really interesting to see more from House next week. I bet you he's going to be able to disclose what happened with the strip, what's happened with Vegas and the Mojave since we last left it as the courier. So hopefully he can fill in some of those blanks, and maybe they'll confirm, which ending they are going off of. Maybe they've been hiding it because it kind of plays a point in the show, or plays a part in the show. So it'll be interesting to kind of unpack that a little bit more, which I'm sure we will next week. I'd be really pissed if they didn't, honestly. That would kind of be annoying. But yeah, I'd love to know what you thought of the episode too. If you liked it, or if especially the whole canon ending thing, does that bother you? So yeah, I mean, thanks for hanging out. Thanks for joining me this week. I know your time's valuable, so I appreciate you spending it with me. I'd appreciate a like. I'd appreciate a sub if you think I've earned it. And I will see you guys next week for the finale. Thanks for tuning in. Bye-bye.